give you the confidence to move forward with purpose and clarity, and from a really grounded position, knowing that you're making the right decision. And that's how I feel about today. From my particular standpoint, it's been a really tough 9 months. You know, we've impacted thousands of people, but it hasn't come to the point financially as to where we need it to be, right? As an entrepreneur, we get a lot of stuff thrown at us. You know, thousands of ideas every single day about what we think we should be doing. And I had to release a lot of that. You know, just out of college, I was chasing the wrong things. And as soon as I started to listen to my heart and my intuition, that's when I knew that this was going to be successful. And if I just followed that, all the right marketing advice would come along, all the right people, places, circumstances would literally move or shapeshift to come along and hold my hand and help me with that process. And there is no coincidence that Russell is here today. You know, even when I bought the split test book a while ago, you know, the 108 tests, and I was reading it, one of the thoughts that I had was like, how great would it be to have Russell Brunson coach me on this stuff? Somebody that really knows what they're doing. And sure enough, today, I mean, it's just been like a dream come true. I think the greatest form of wealth we have is time. And I know that sounds cliche, but it's so true. You know, we could sit around twiddling our thumbs in analysis paralysis, trying to figure out what to do. And as time goes by, we get closer to death, closer to not living a legacy that we want to live, creating purpose and impact in people's lives. And if I could trade money for time, I would do it in a heartbeat. And I think this is a real simple investment in your own life and deciding to move forward with this, because it's going to save you a ton of time of trying to figure it out on your own. Here's a coach that does it every single day, that helps you, you know, answers your question, shows you exactly what to do, that has literally run thousands of split tests. My job is to transform people, not to transform businesses. I leave transforming businesses to the expert, and Russell is the expert. You need to make the decision and do it right now.
Wasn't that awesome? Did you guys see the power that Russell was able to help Drew and help him to really build and transform his business? Now, hey, Russell's going to be back from the bathroom here in just a minute. But what I want you guys to do is I want you to go to ignite.comsecrets.com. I want you to apply so I can give you a call. I can talk with you. And hopefully we can have Russell helping you guys to build and grow your business as well. Hey, I'm going to get out of here real quick before Russell gets back in. Thanks, guys. See you later.
All right, has this been good for you guys so far? Again, we're 2.5 hours in. I know this is a lot to cover in a short period of time, which is why, again, the replay will be coming out for you guys, because I definitely want you guys to be able to dive in deeper. Also, in the members area, what I'll do is I'll take this and I'll break it down into sections. So if you wanted to look at, just focus on just the content creation, just the webinar, each of the individual pieces, you'll be able to see that as well instead of having to watch the entire 8-hour thing again, whatever it ends up being. So that's kind of the game plan. All right, cool. Okay, so I'm going to jump back in then. So the next thing I want to talk about, because one of the I almost thought like I shouldn't. For a long time, I thought like this wasn't that important to share. But after years and years and years of doing this, it's amazing how boring and unprolific most people are when they don't think about it. So when I got started doing this, I just kind of did it, and I didn't realize what I was doing or not doing. It took me a long time to figure it out, and it's really the key to this whole thing. You've got to be prolific in your content. Okay, if you're not, your messages are not going to be spread. Your ideas aren't. People will buy what they will refund. Everything you're doing will come to a screeching halt if you, as an expert, are not prolific. So, what is being prolific? Being prolific, it's teaching and educating and sharing and showing stuff in a way that is cool. It's different. That's unique. And it really is important, because if you don't do that, like I said, you're going to bore people really, really quick. I can't tell you how many times like we see weight loss people who come and they're like, hey, so my weight loss course, we're going to focus on eating less calories than you burn each month, and we're going to focus on the 4 food groups, or this, whatever it is now, the food pyramid, and we're going to all the stuff that's like the stuff people can get at school, people that they can get anywhere. Like, that's not what makes you exciting. The reason why Dave, the Bulletproof Executive, right? The reason why he is so good is that he's prolific. He brought in a whole new paradigm. Like, he came in and started teaching people like, hey, instead of like eating whole wheat, you should be drinking butter coffee for breakfast. Like that's prolific. It's different. It gets people talking. It makes things interesting. Okay, and so you've got to be prolific when you're speaking. Otherwise, your messages will not be spread. Okay, it's just vital. It's very important. So the first way you make your content be prolific is by using the attractive character. Now, I could go on literally for a day teaching just attractive character stuff, but we don't have time for that in the context of this training. In the members area, I'll put a bunch more training about the attractive character, so that those who stick through the rebuild rate, you'll get a bunch of really cool training there as well. But the attractive character it's the personality of the expert. Okay, it's the personality and the way you communicate with your audience through everything, from a marketing standpoint, from a content standpoint, from all these different areas. Okay, and so you're going to be using the attractive character all the time and weaving in your stories and your things throughout this whole process. So I'm going to go really quickly through this, because again, I don't want to spend a ton of time, and we'll have a more like I think it's like a 60 or 90 minute training in the members area just on attractive character. But the attractive character, when I first started using this in my business, had a huge impact on me and on the money I made, which is really cool, right? I first learned this from a guy named John Olanis, and John is a pickup artist. Okay, he teaches men how to get women to approach them. Okay, and I had him come and speak at one of my business events. I heard him speak one time, teach this concept somewhere else, and later I said, John, you need to come to my event and teach this because it's so good. And he got up in front of the room. I still remember to this day, he said, look, you guys, you're selling whatever product or service you're selling. For me, the people I teach, I'm teaching men how to get women to come to them. But it's the exact same thing. He said, they're selling themselves. You're selling your information, or you're selling your products or whatever. But he said, the reality is it all comes down to the laws of attraction. Okay. And he said that just like my men have to get women to be attracted to them, if you want people to buy your stuff, you've got to be attractive, and you have to develop an attractive character. And this is where I first started hearing about this. And when I started doing that in my business, it totally transformed everything. I remember the first couple times I spoke, the only stories I would tell were about kind of at the time I was still wrestling, so about my wrestling. And it was cool, but what was interesting is that the people that bought my product were always like the athletes and the wrestlers and things like that. And I remember speaking at this one event. It was 500 or 600 people, and I gave this my presentation, and I did awesome. I sold it a bunch. I got to the back of the room, and there were a whole bunch of guys back there, and I think we sold, I don't know, 70 or 80 grand from that presentation. It was a great day, right? A lot of money, really fun. Met a lot of cool people. Got to work with a bunch of really cool people. And then right after me, a woman got up. Her name's Allie Brown. Some of you guys may know Allie. And she got up and she gave a presentation teaching the exact same concept I had just taught about. And I remember sitting in the audience and feeling horrible. I'm like, oh man, I feel so bad for her. Like, I took away her whole thunder. Everything that she's teaching right now, I just taught. And I felt bad for her. And she got up and did her pitch at the end. And guess what happened? Entire room of women popped up and ran to the back and bought her thing. And sure enough, she beat me in sales that event. And I was blown away. And I moved on in my career a little bit longer. A couple years later, my wife and I had twins. And we had to go through fertility and a bunch of stuff, and it was a hard process. And I'd never shared that story publicly before. And some event I was at, and I don't know how it came up. Sometimes you're speaking, your voice, you start saying things, and you don't know how to stop it afterwards. But I started sharing my whole fertility story. In the middle, I'm like, why am I telling these people this? But I was going through the whole thing, and then I did my pitch at the end. And what was crazy is that a whole bunch of people ran to the back of the room. And when I got back there and I was processing the orders and stuff, I know something really interesting. The people in the back of the room were different. I still had the athletes and the men and the people who had been attracted to what I was selling before, but now I had a whole new audience. All these like women and mothers and grandmothers and different segment of people started buying from me because I shared a different part of my story. And so I found that throughout the last 10 years of doing this, the different elements I share and different things will always attract different kind of people. And so this attractive character piece that I'm showing you guys right now is really fundamental and really key to everything you're doing. You have to learn how to do this, because as the expert, if you want people to follow you, they're not going to follow the boring character, right? They're going to follow the attractive character. And it does not mean you have to be good looking, okay? You guys have seen my picture online. I'm definitely not a good looking, like I'm not like a great looking person, right? I'm not Brad Pitt or something, okay? I'm not talking about being good looking. I'm talking about having an attractive personality, okay? One of the reasons why Liz is crushing it right now, you guys saw her on the video, right? She's just such a fun personality, and she's bubbly, and she shares story, and she's perfect, right? And so that's what you guys need to be doing as well, is creating a character like that people will fall in love with, okay? So here's some of the core aspects of the attractive character. The first thing over here on the left-hand side are the elements of the attractive character. Okay, every attractive character has a backstory. Okay, sometimes you might call it an origin story. Okay, when you think about origin story, you probably think of like superheroes, right? Every good superhero has a backstory that tells that how they came from wherever they're at to where they are today. Okay, if you don't have a backstory and if you don't share it with your audience, then guess what? You will be unrelatable to them. You look like this person who's completely perfect, who figured this thing out. Okay, but if you have a backstory that says, look, I was where you are at right now. I learned some really, really cool stuff, and now check out where I am today. That's what sells. People see where if you can go to where they're at, and you can show that you were in the same spot they were at through your backstory, and then show them that you blazed this trail and you found the answer. That is that's what gets people to relate to you. Okay, the reason why Bulletproof Executive, right, Dave does so good is because guess what? He used to be like 300 pounds overweight. And then without exercise, without doing anything, just by drinking his butter coffee, all of a sudden he lost all his weight, and boom, that's a backstory, because people can relate to that. He's meeting them where they're already at. So backstory is key, okay, an origin story. And you're going to be using this in your presentation. You're going to be using it in a lot of different places. Next are parables, okay? Attractive characters speak in parables and stories, okay? I should go back after and watch this webinar and see how many stories I've told you guys, because the greatest teachers in the world, they speak in parables. And so you guys got to figure out like what aspects of your life, when things happen, like what's a parable that you can use to help your audience understand a concept. Like when I first started teaching people how to create information products, I wasn't really so much focusing on like them focusing on their expertise, but just creating like niche products, right? And for me, I had this little potato gun that when I was spring break one year after my wife and I got married, my wife had to work and I was bored sitting at home doing nothing because I couldn't go anywhere for spring break. So my buddy and I, we went and we found some potato gun plans online, went to Home Depot, we built a bunch of potato guns, went out there and shot them and had a ton of fun with it. The next week I went back to school and I was searching online and I found this site that you could see how many people were searching on Google for a different keyword. I typed in potato gun, and sure enough, 18,000 people that month besides me had searched for potato guns. And I looked and there was no products out there, so I decided to create a potato gun product. And I went back to my buddy, we made a DVD, we went down to Home Depot, we bought the pipes, we glued them together, and we made a how-to video of how to make a potato gun. And I created that product, I put up a little website, and put my ads out in front of those 18,000 people, and really quickly I had my very first information product. Okay, that's the parable I tell people to help them understand that you can create products in any niche you want, right? So there's one parable I share. Okay, there's tons of parables that if you guys keep listening to my training and you go through other things, you'll notice that I have a whole like portfolio of parables that I use to illustrate different concepts. Okay, and you got to start doing the same thing for yourself. As you're teaching different things, you got to have different parables to kind of illustrate those things. Okay, because that's what makes your teaching interesting. Okay, the difference between having a boring product and an exciting product is like 99% parables and stories and things like that. So you got to start identifying when something happens in your life. You got to stop and be like, how can I turn this into a parable that I can explain to my people that'll somehow get them to do what I need them to do? Okay? And so start keeping track of that. And a lot of times they don't have to be your parables either. You can share other people's parables. I know that that one of my friends, she told me that for years she taught information marketing, and she always would share my potato gun story because that story is what related to her. And when she would share it with people, they get the aha moment, and she used my parable. So you don't always have to have all these parables your own, but you need to find stories to illustrate all the concepts that you're trying to teach. Okay. All right. Next is character flaws. Nobody likes somebody who's perfect. They can't relate to that. And so one of the hard things you guys are going to find is it's really hard and scary at first to share your character flaws. But you'll also find that it's necessary. When people see that you have flaws and things like that, that's what makes you relatable. That's what gets them interested in you. Okay? And so character flaws is important. And then number 4 is polarity. And I'm going to talk about it here again in a minute. But if your content is just neutral, neutrality is boring and does not inspire action. Okay? Polarity, being different and being unique, that's what gets people to pay attention. Okay? I always have people like, well, I don't want to offend anyone. I don't want to, like, some people aren't going to believe this or agree with me. I want to be neutral and I want to please everybody. And when you do that, you can't make money. Okay? Every time I've tried to be neutral in my marketing and in my content and my products, it's boring and nobody buys it. It's essential that you have some polarity because that's what gets people to take action and to listen. Okay? And I'll show some more examples of that here in a minute. So that's kind of the first thing, of the elements of the attractive character. These are things you're going to be weaving throughout everything. Next is your identity. Which one of these characteristics fits you the best? One is the leader. Okay? One is the adventurer or the crusader. One is the reporter or the evangelist, where you're interviewing people and you're finding out information for them and for yourself. And then number 4 is the reluctant hero. Reluctant hero is kind of my favorite, where you didn't ever have you never wanted to become this expert. You were more kind of out there and you saw all these people struggling, and so finally you decided to share what you were doing with a couple of your friends, and it worked for them, and so they wanted you to share with some more people, and boom, because of this, you became this reluctant hero. Okay, so for you guys, you got to kind of figure out which identity resonates best with you. Again, some of you guys, it's like, I'm the leader, boom. Some of you guys are like, I'm an adventurer. I'm going out there, I'm doing and testing and trying these things out. I want to bring back all of my adventures to you and show you what the cool stuff that I found. Okay, the reporter, again, is going and interviewing other experts and bringing that information back. And then the reluctant hero we talked about. A lot of times, if you're just getting started and you're nervous, the reporter is a lot of times the best identity to begin with. Like, for example, when I started internet marketing, I didn't know much about internet marketing. I just wanted to learn. So I became the reporter, and I started interviewing people and asking them questions, and I would record those interviews. And that became, in fact, the very first product I ever made that did over $1 million in sales was a product called the 12-Month Millionaire. And I found this dude who wrote a book called The 12-Month Millionaire, and I called him on the phone, and he allowed me to interview him. And I interviewed him for 6 hours. He told me the story about how he made $100 million in 23 months. And he spent 6 hours with the phone on me. I recorded the entire thing and then sold the interview. And I promise you guys that most of the authors on Amazon have never had anyone interested in their book. If you were to email them tonight and say, hey, your book's awesome, can I interview you? Most of them allow you to interview them, and you can create a ton of really good products and content and things that way. So there's kind of the reporter. All right. So again, you're going to pick one of these identities. And for me, my identity's kind of shifted throughout my career as an expert, and yours probably will as well. A lot of times, again, it begins as a reporter. Eventually, you transition over to a reluctant hero, or maybe it's more the leader, whichever one makes the most sense for your personality. Okay. And the last part of the attractive character are storylines. And these storylines you're going to use throughout your presentation, through your marketing, everything. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here, but you got loss and redemption. Okay, I had this thing and I lost it, but I was able to fight my way back, and now I've got this secret, right? Us versus them. Okay, if you're an expert in something, what's the opposite of whatever it is you're teaching? Okay, the us versus them is a key here. Before and after. I used to be fat, now I'm skinny. I used to be broke, now I'm rich. Okay, before and after stories, amazing discoveries. Check out what I found as an expert. Secret telling. Okay, most of my stuff is secret telling if you haven't noticed. And then third-party testimonials. So those different storylines you can weave into a whole bunch of things. Your emails, your marketing, your webinar. But these are just things to understand. This is how I use and I manipulate my attractive character to get people to buy and to give me money so that I can affect and I can change their life. Okay, so I'll share different I'll share different parables to attract different people. I'll say things that are going to repel some people and attract other people. I use different identities that'll resonate with the different people, because everyone's gonna be a little different. Okay, so that's the attractive character stuff. Again, guys, in the members area, I'll put a whole bunch more training on that if you want to dig deeper, and you should. Next thing here that I think is important about making your content prolific is you have to increase your own personal teachability index.